The kidnapping that shook the stars. The Galactic summit was supposed to be peaceful. Leaders from hundreds of star systems filled the massive station's grand chamber. Giant windows revealed the swirling lights of the nearby nebula, casting soft blue light over the hall. Holographic banners of different civilizations floated in the air. For a moment, it looked like a vision of unity. Ambassador Elias Ward, Earth's chief diplomat, stood at the center podium. He was tall, calm and confident, dressed in Earth's simple dark blue formal uniform. His speech was being translated into dozens of alien languages in real time. "Together, we can build trust, not fear," he said, his voice steady. "Let this summit be a sign that the galaxy can choose peace." Then whoop! 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 The alarms shattered the calm. The room's atmosphere shifted in a heartbeat. Delegates turned toward the sound. Security drones flew overhead, red lights flashing. From above, the station's AI voice boomed. "Security breach detected. Sector 3, unauthorized wormhole activity." Elias turned sharply. He saw a flash of light at the far end of the chamber, near the delegation entrance. A wormhole was opening, bright, spinning, unstable. Figures appeared inside it, silhouettes against the swirling glow. "Get back!" shouted a human security officer. But it was already too late. 5 shadowy aliens stepped out. Their armor was dark and sharp, their movements precise like trained assassins. Before anyone could react, 2 of them activated energy devices. A wave of paralysis rippled through the crowd. Delegates froze mid-step, eyes wide. One alien grabbed Elias by the arm. He struggled, but their grip was like iron. Another alien deployed a containment sphere, a shimmering cage of light that wrapped around Elias in seconds. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The wormhole began to destabilize. Security drones opened fire, but energy bolts passed harmlessly through the fading edges of the portal. The strike team retreated, pulling Elias inside. His eyes locked on the human security officer for one brief moment. Then, with a violent flash, the wormhole collapsed, leaving nothing but smoke. Silence followed, then chaos erupted. Delegates screamed. Some tried to flee, others argued with their guards. Rumors began to spread like wildfire through the station's networks. Who were they? Why take a human diplomat? The summit's entire agenda was forgotten within seconds. In Earth's command center back home, Admiral Sophia Wren watched the live feed replay over and over. Her face was stone. Around her, officers barked updates tracking the wormhole signature. The analysis came quickly, confirmed. The kidnappers are Tarsian. Wormhole exit vector, Outer Rim, Dominion territory. The Tarsian Dominion, one of the most feared empires in the galaxy. Expansionist, brutal. They conquered weaker species and enslaved entire worlds. And now they had taken an Earth ambassador in front of every major power in the galaxy. Within hours, the Galactic Newsnet was on fire. Headlines screamed across systems: "Human diplomat abducted. Tarsians strike a Galactic summit. Earth's response imminent." Alien factions whispered among themselves. Some were afraid, others were amused. "Humans won't dare challenge the Tarsians," a Rigoth merchant snorted. "They'll beg for his return," another laughed. But deep inside Earth's Defense Command, the atmosphere was cold and sharp. The United Earth government released a single statement: return Ambassador Elias Ward within 48 hours, or face consequences. The message was short, clear, no threats, no begging. Just a deadline. The galactic powers laughed. The Tarsians especially. "Earth is a young world," their spokesperson sneered on public broadcast. "They cannot harm us. Their fleets are small. Their technology is outdated. They will learn their place." But what the galaxy didn't know was that Earth had been preparing. For decades, quietly away from prying eyes, Earth had built something powerful, something no alien had ever seen. And now that sleeping power was waking, far away, at the edge of the Sol system, near the dark void where few dared to go. Something massive began to move, hidden beneath layers of stealth fields and false energy signatures. An object the size of a small moon, slowly detached from its hidden orbital dock. Its armored hull gleamed faintly in the distant sunlight. Inside, thousands of systems came online. Lights flared to life. Engines the size of cities began their deep, thunderous hum. A navigation officer whispered almost reverently, "Coordinates locked. Destination, Tarsian Dominion space." Sensors across nearby sectors briefly flickered, detecting something strange, then went silent. Most ignored it. Some felt a shiver because the galaxy had no idea what was coming. Humanity had just started to move. And when humanity moves, stars burn. The Tarsian Dominion celebrated that night. In their grand palace on the throne world of Vorkas, nobles and military leaders toasted with glowing crystal drinks. Holoscreens replayed the abduction of Elias Ward again and again, each time followed by mocking laughter. "The humans bark like cubs," one admiral sneered. 48 hours! What will they do? Throw asteroids at us? Another jeered. In the shadows of the room, the Tarsian Emperor Kor Talrin listened silently. He was old, ruthless, and proud. He saw humans as clever but weak, traders, explorers, diplomats. Not warriors? "Let them shout," he said finally, his voice like cold iron. "When their time runs out, they will kneel." Across the galaxy, other powers agreed. Some saw a chance to test Earth's strength. Others simply waited for entertainment. No one imagined what was already happening deep inside Sol System. Far beyond Earth's orbit, in the dark between Neptune and the Kuiper Belt, a vast fleet lay hidden. Hundreds of warships floated silently, their black hulls absorbing starlight, their engines cold. No transmissions, no lights, just waiting. This was Operation Black Tide. For decades, Earth had prepared in secret, building a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Old war treaties had kept their public fleets small, but this one was hidden. Developed under layers of deception and silent space stations, each ship was equipped with the latest stealth drives, advanced kinetic lance cannons, and AI combat systems that could outthink alien admirals in seconds. Their mission? Strike fast, strike hard, and leave nothing standing. On the command deck of the UNS Vengeance, Admiral Sophia Wren stood tall, her face lit by the faint blue glow of holomaps. She looked at the countless icons marking her fleet, destroyers, cruisers, carriers, dreadnoughts. "We warned them," she said quietly. They didn't listen. Her second-in-command, Captain Imani Patel, nodded. "Orders from High Command are confirmed. Black Tide is a go." The Admiral closed her eyes briefly, remembering Elias Ward's calm face at the summit. He was more than a diplomat. He was her oldest friend. The Tarsians had made a mistake, and now they were going to learn what Earth truly was. The Armada awakens all across the hidden dockyards. Silent lights began to blink. Engines hummed. Power cores activated one by one. The dark, sleeping fleet came alive, like a giant mechanical beast opening its eyes. "Fleet command to all ships," came the voice over encrypted channels. "Initiate departure sequence. Maintain stealth. No external transmissions." One by one, the massive ships turned toward deep space. Their engines ignited softly, almost invisible, producing no detectable warp signatures. To outside observers, they were ghosts. Meanwhile, in Galactic Council headquarters, alien analysts studied their sensors and reports. A Vraxi intelligence officer frowned at his display. "Strange," he muttered. "We're picking up gravitational fluctuations near Sol, but no ships detected." His superior waved a claw dismissively. "Probably human mining activity." "They always overcomplicate things. They were wrong. Very wrong." The galaxy watches. 48 hours ticked down. Earth's deadline spread across news networks like wildfire. Commentators mocked it. Alien militaries placed small observation ships near the borders of human space, curious to see if Earth would actually do anything. Tarsian generals were confident. Their fleets were vast, their fortresses strong. "If they dare attack," one general boasted on live broadcast, "we will scatter their ships like dust." But the first sign of danger wasn't an attack. It was silence. Several Tarsian border listening posts went offline in quick succession. At first, the Dominion believed it was a technical error. Then a patrol ship vanished. Its last transmission was just static and a single line from a terrified crewman. "Something's in the dark." Panic began to ripple quietly through the lower ranks. Commanders dismissed it. They shouldn't have. Earth's first move. As the deadline approached its final hour, Admiral Rain stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the star map. Tarsian border defenses glowed red. Her fleet's ghost signatures closed in silently, undetected. "Fleet ready," reported Captain Patel. "Course locked for Tarsian space." "Estimated time to strike 4 hours." Rain raised her hand slowly. The entire bridge fell silent. "Then let's show them what happens when you take one of ours," she said. She gave the order. The silent armada accelerated, vanishing into the darkness between stars. No transmissions, no warnings, no mercy. Several hours later, in a distant Tarsian border command center, a technician suddenly jumped from his seat. "Admiral, I'm picking up something." "What is it?" I don't know. It's moving fast, very fast. There are hundreds of them. But the sensors can't lock on." The Tarsian admiral frowned. "Impossible. Nothing can evade our scanners. You're seeing ghosts." But then the lights flickered. The room went cold. On the main tactical display, faint, ghost-like dots appeared. Multiplying rapidly, one officer whispered, his voice shaking, "They're here." And for the first time, the Tarsian Dominion felt fear. The Tarsian Dominion was confident. For centuries, their fleets had crushed anyone who opposed them. Their borders were lined with fortified stations, armed with massive plasma cannons and shield arrays. No empire had ever crossed their lines and lived. So when the first strange signals came in, the commanders in the Outer Rim Defense Station Core 7 laughed. "Just sensor ghosts," one officer said. "Humans are too far. They won't dare come here," another added. But as the night shift dragged on, an uneasy feeling crept through the control center. The stars outside looked normal, but too still, as if the darkness itself was watching. At 02:17 station time, a young Tarsian technician noticed something odd. The gravity sensors began to spike, small at first, then growing rapidly. She frowned, tapping the screen. "Admiral, we're picking up a gravity anomaly. Sector 12, the Admiral yawned, unimpressed. "Probably a rogue asteroid." "Ignore it." But the readings climbed higher and higher. Then suddenly the stars in Sector 12 bent, just slightly, but enough to make everyone freeze. What is that?" the technician whispered. A moment later, space itself seemed to split open. Dozens, no hundreds, of dark shapes burst out of the void. Sleek, angular, silent. The Tarsian sensors went wild, alarms screaming. Every display filled with red warnings. Multiple contacts, hundreds. They just appeared out of nowhere. "Shields up! All batteries online. Sound the alert." But it was too late. The lead Tarsian officer barely had time to give the order when the first kinetic lance struck. It moved faster than light, a glowing spear of compressed metal launched from the human dreadnoughts. It ripped through the station's shield like paper and punched straight through the main reactor core. For 1 second, the massive defense station glowed like a second sun. Then it exploded, a brilliant blue-white fireball that lit up the darkness for millions of kilometers. The shockwave hit nearby Tarsian ships before they could even react. Dozens were torn apart instantly. Others spun helplessly, systems fried. The human fleet didn't stop. Their formation moved like a predator pack, fast, silent, perfectly coordinated. Their AI targeting systems locked onto enemy ships with surgical precision. Cruisers unleashed swarms of autonomous attack drones, tiny machines that sliced through hulls like razors. Destroyers fired salvo after salvo of railgun rounds that pierced even heavy armor. The Tarsian fleet was supposed to be powerful, but in those first terrifying minutes, it was like watching a hammer smash glass. The galaxy watches. The battle was being transmitted through dozens of channels. Nearby, civilian freighters accidentally picked up fragments of the fight and broadcast them on the open network. Within hours, billions across the galaxy were watching the impossible. Earth's fleet was winning. A commentator on a neutral station gasped as the feed came in. This can't be real. Tarsian fleets don't lose." But they were losing badly. Meanwhile, a message far away in Tarsian territory, deep inside a dreadnought's brig, Elias Ward sat in a containment field. Bruised but alive, he stared at the small surveillance drone hovering outside his cell. For days, they had tried to make him talk. About Earth, about the artifact project, about the hidden technology they believed he knew. Elias refused, but now, through the thin walls, he felt the distant rumble of explosions. The ship trembled slightly. Tarsian guards rushed past, shouting orders. Elias smiled faintly. "They came," he whispered. Moments later, a secret Tarsian officer entered the room and activated a communicator. A flickering image appeared, Elias's face captured by a hidden human probe. He spoke slowly, his voice calm. "I don't have much time. Listen carefully. They didn't take me for ransom. They took me for what I know." Before he could say more, alarms blared. The transmission cut abruptly, but the message reached Earth Command. Admiral Reen narrowed her eyes. "He's telling us something. There's more to this kidnapping than revenge," she said. "The fall of Core 7 back at the battle, the once mighty Core 7 defensive sector was in flames. Human ships darted between wrecks like sharks in bloodied water. Tarsian commanders tried to regroup, but human AIs intercepted every move before they made it. In less than 15 minutes, the entire sector was silent. Hundreds of ships destroyed, thousands captured. No human ships lost. For the first time in history, a Tarsian border fleet had been completely annihilated. A single Tarsian escape pod managed to broadcast a garbled message before being destroyed. "It's the humans. They're not bluffing. Gods help us." In the darkness of space, the human fleet regrouped silently. Wreckage floated around them. Aboard the UNS Vengeance, Admiral Reen studied the star map. "First strike complete," Captain Patel reported. "Losses?" "None, Admiral. Not a single ship." Reen looked at the red icons marking Tarsian space. "This was only the beginning." "Good," she said coldly. "Then we keep going." Her gaze hardened. Somewhere out there, Elias Ward was still alive. And something bigger, something dangerous, was hidden behind this kidnapping. She didn't know what it was yet. But she intended to burn through every star in their path to find out. The Tarsian Dominion could not believe what had happened. The Core 7 defense sector, one of their strongest border regions, was gone. Hundreds of ships destroyed. A massive station reduced to glowing debris. And Earth's fleet? Untouched. For centuries, the Dominion had crushed its enemies with ease. Now, for the first time, they had been humiliated, and the entire galaxy had watched. Inside the Tarsian throne hall, panic and rage filled the air. Massive holographic displays floated around Emperor Kortal Rin as commanders shouted over each other. "They used weapons we've never seen. Our shields were useless. It was like fighting shadows." The Emperor slammed his clawed hand on the armrest of his throne. "Enough!" he roared. The chamber fell silent. His eyes burned with cold fury. "They think they can shame us. They think their little fleet can frighten the Dominion. They will learn. Prepare the fleets. Erase their homeworld." Back on Earth, alarms rang in every command center. Intelligence satellites near the Tarsian frontier had detected enormous movement. 3 massive Tarsian invasion fleets, heading straight toward human space. In the command bunker beneath Geneva, Admiral Sophia Rain stood before a giant 3D star map. The red icons of the Tarsian fleets were like bloodstains spreading toward the blue dot that was Earth. "They're coming," Captain Patel said quietly. "Good," Wren replied. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Let them." While panic spread among civilians, Earth's military prepared silently. Orbital defense platforms powered up. Planetary shields, once experimental, activated over major cities. Fleets were recalled to defensive positions. For decades, humans had planned for this moment. They had built hidden layered defenses, integrated AI response systems, and trap zones near strategic choke points. The Tarsians thought they were attacking a weak world. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The counterattack begins in deep space near Proxima Gate. Tarsian ships burst out of FTL tunnels like a tidal wave. Their fleet was enormous, Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, swarming fighters. Their commanders expected panic. Instead, they found silence. No human ships challenged them at first. "Are their defenses broken?" one Tarsian captain asked. "No, wait, something's wrong," another whispered. Moments later, their fleet passed through what looked like empty space. Suddenly, hundreds of hidden defense satellites came online simultaneously. Missiles streaked from the dark. Railgun fire tore through formation lines. Entire Tarsian squadrons were shredded before they could react. Human fleets jumped in from multiple directions, perfectly timed. The Tarsians were surrounded. Traps sprung. From orbit, the Earth fleet launched a counterattack so fierce that the invaders never reached even the outer colonies. In less than 2 hours, the first Tarsian wave was crushed. The second and third waves met similar fates as Earth's strategic AIs adapted and outmaneuvered every Tarsian strategy. The mystery deepens while the war raged. Another drama unfolded quietly in a secure lab beneath the Martian surface. Dr. Lena Aris, chief of Earth's precursor research program, stared at the encrypted message intercepted from Elias Ward's prison ship. "They didn't take me for ransom. They took me for what I know." She played it again and again, her mind racing. Elias had worked with her on Project Echo, Earth's study of a strange artifact unearthed decades earlier beneath the Martian crust. The object was massive, ancient, and still partly buried. No one knew its full purpose, but Elias had been the lead linguist on the translation team. Lena opened restricted files showing alien inscriptions on the artifact. One phrase translated clearly, "The key is human." Her blood ran cold. "Oh no," she whispered. "That's why they took him." The Tarsians didn't just want to humiliate Earth. They wanted Elias because he was the only one who could unlock the artifact. The Tarsian invasion crumbles in space. The Tarsian fleets were falling apart. Earth's traps, superior strategy, and brutal weaponry turned the invaders' arrogance into chaos. Tarsian admirals shouted conflicting orders. Ships collided. Formations broke. Admiral Rain watched from the bridge of the UNS Vengeance, her expression cold and focused. "Status?" "Second fleet breaking apart. Third fleet retreating. First fleet destroyed," Captain Patel reported. Wren nodded. "Good. Send the message." Moments later, a single transmission was broadcast across the Tarsian networks. "We warned you. The entire galaxy saw it." A single human admiral staring into the camera, voice calm like steel. Back on Mars, Dr. Lena rushed through the corridors to the high-security chamber where the Martian artifact lay buried. But before she could enter, alarms blared. The ground shook. Technicians yelled as new readings appeared on screens. "Something's happening inside the artifact. Power levels are rising. It's waking up." Lena stared at the glowing structure through the observation window. For the first time in 30,000 years, the artifact was active. She whispered to herself, her voice trembling. "Elias, what did they make you unlock?" Far away in Tarsian space, Elias Ward was forced into a dark chamber filled with alien machinery. His captors surrounded him. "You will finish the translation," their leader hissed, "or we will burn your world to ash." Elias looked up, bruised but defiant. "You already tried," he said, "and you failed." The Tarsians didn't know it yet, but by taking Elias, they had started something far bigger than a war. Something ancient had just awakened, and it was listening. The artifact had slept beneath the Martian surface for longer than human history could remember. It was buried deep under red rock and ice, surrounded by ancient tunnels that no one had built. For decades, Earth scientists had studied it in silence, never fully understanding its purpose. But now the silence was broken. In the early hours of the Martian night, alarms screamed through the underground research base. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Technicians shouted as control panels flooded with strange readings. Dr. Lena Aras ran into the observation chamber, breathless. Through the thick glass, she saw it. The artifact was glowing. It had always been a cold, dark structure, like a piece of a starship fused with stone. But now, radiant blue-white lines pulsed across its surface, like veins carrying light. A low, thrumming sound filled the chamber, deep enough to make the walls vibrate. The air itself felt charged, as if a storm were building underground. "Power surge is climbing," one engineer yelled. "It's rewriting our systems." Another cried. Monitors flickered wildly. The artifact was no longer passive. It was reaching out, seizing control of the base's network, adapting to human technology like it was a puzzle it already knew how to solve. On Earth, Admiral Reen received the priority alert from Mars. She stood silently in the command center as the images played, the artifact glowing, the readings spiking, the scientists struggling to keep control. She understood immediately this wasn't an accident. This was a response. Elias Ward's abduction had triggered something. Far away, in the heart of Tarsian space, Elias stood in a cold chamber surrounded by his captors. The Tarsians had strapped him into a translation console built from scavenged alien technology. The leader, a tall figure with 4 black eyes, leaned close. "You will unlock it," the alien hissed. "The key is human. That is why you are still alive." Elias stared back, bruised but defiant. "You have no idea what you're playing with," he said quietly. The Tarsian leader smiled. "Oh, we know. We intend to use it." Back on Mars, the artifact's glow grew brighter. Entire sectors of the base began shutting down as its energy output spiked beyond anything Earth had prepared for. Strange symbols appeared on screens across the base, alien text that no one had seen before. Lena recognized fragments of it from Project Echo's early translations. "It's broadcasting," she whispered. "But to where?" Across the solar system, hidden receivers in old human probes suddenly activated. Deep space satellites turned toward the stars. Even ancient forgotten stations on the edge of the Kuiper Belt began sending out signals. The artifact wasn't just waking up, it was calling out. Aboard the UNS Vengeance, Wren gathered her senior officers. The room was tense. "We have to assume the Tarsians took Elias because they know something about this," she said. "Whatever that artifact is, it just went live. And if it's broadcasting, others may hear it." "Others?" someone asked. Reen looked out the viewport at the stars. "We've always assumed it was just a relic. But what if it was waiting for someone to trigger it?" On Mars, the base shook violently. The artifact lifted slightly from its ancient cradle, levitating as energy poured out of it in shimmering waves. Dust and debris swirled around like a storm. Lena stood frozen, watching as the alien structure reconfigured itself before her eyes. Panels shifting, lights forming patterns, symbols rearranging, the artifact's pulse synchronized with something far away. A signal locked, coordinates formed. Then, for a brief moment, every human ship, station, and colony received the same transmission. It wasn't words. It was a voice, calm, ancient, and vast. It spoke in no known language, but somehow everyone understood a single message. "We have heard the key." The broadcast cut off. Silence followed. But across the galaxy, things began to move. Sensors on the edge of human space picked up massive disturbances, objects emerging from deep space folds where no civilization should exist. Lena gripped the console, her hands shaking. "Oh no," she whispered. Something answered. On Tarsian Prime, the Dominion's leaders received the same transmission. Unlike humans, they recognized the signal's origin. It was a legend buried deep in their history, a warning about an ancient power that had once burned across the stars. And now, it was awake again. Elias closed his eyes in his cell, sensing the shift through the walls. He didn't need to see it to know. Humanity's secret was no longer hidden, and whatever had just heard the artifact's call was coming. The galaxy had always believed the great powers were untouchable. The Tarsian Dominion ruled through fear, their fleets vast, their cruelty legendary. Neighboring empires stayed quiet, always watching, always calculating, but never daring to challenge them. All of that changed the moment the artifact spoke. Across deep space, something ancient had awakened. No one understood it, but everyone felt it. Sensors across the galaxy detected massive energy spikes in forgotten regions. Old star charts began to show new moving signatures, vast objects emerging from folds of space where no empire had ever dared to go. The signal from Mars had reached them, and they were answering. At the edge of Tarsian space, their border patrol fleets were the first to encounter the unknown. A small listening post detected strange gravitational fluctuations, like the fabric of space itself was being stretched. Then, without warning, the stars vanished. Something vast arrived. The Tarsian ships sent distress signals, but their feeds were cut off mid-transmission. When reinforcements arrived, they found only debris, millions of tons of shredded metal drifting in silence. No survivors. The entire patrol fleet had been wiped out in less than a minute. In the Tarsian throne hall, panic spread like wildfire. Commanders argued, diplomats shouted, priests muttered ancient warnings that had not been spoken for centuries. The Emperor demanded answers, but there were none. Meanwhile, Earth watched everything. Their deep space sensors picked up the same events. Admiral Rain stood in the UNS Vengeance's command center, her expression grave. "They're not attacking randomly," she said softly. "They're moving with purpose." Dr. Lena Aris appeared on the secure hololink from Mars. Her face was pale, eyes wide with fear. "We translated more of the artifact's message," she said. "It wasn't just a signal, it was a summons. It's calling something the ancient text calls the Returners." "Who are they?" Reen asked. Lena hesitated. "The text doesn't describe them clearly. Only this: they come to judge the inheritors of the stars. While the galaxy tried to make sense of the threat, the Returners reached the Tarsian Dominion's outer worlds. Their ships didn't look like anything known. Vast, angular, glowing with strange energy fields that bent light around them. Tarsian defense fleets engaged them and were torn apart like paper. It wasn't a war. It was a punishment. Entire orbital fortresses were sliced in half by beams that seemed to ignore shields. Planetary defense grids shut down without explanation. Cities burned under strange white fire that left nothing but glass plains. Billions watched from afar as world after world of the mighty Tarsian Dominion fell in hours, not weeks. The galaxy had never seen destruction happen this fast. Empires that had feared the Tarsians now watched in horror as the Dominion itself was being erased. On Earth, panic spread among civilians. News networks showed endless streams of burning Tarsian cities, crushed fleets, shattered worlds. People whispered, "Will they come for us next?" But Earth's military didn't panic. They prepared. Rin convened an emergency council of fleet commanders, scientists, and intelligence officers. "The Returners are not attacking us," she said, "but they responded to the artifact. That means we're part of this, whether we like it or not." Lena explained what they'd learned from the artifact's recent transmissions. "The key is human," she said. "It was built for us, or because of us. I think they're coming here not to destroy us, but to find us. In Tarsian space, chaos consumed everything. The Dominion's leadership fractured. Some wanted to surrender to the Returners, others wanted to flee, and a few believed they could still win. They sent their Grand Armada, the largest fleet ever assembled, against the Returners. It vanished within half an hour. Not a single ship returned. For the first time in their brutal history, the Tarsian Dominion broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. It was desperate, broken, and short. "They are not conquerors. They are the end of empires. Run." Across hundreds of star systems, rival powers began evacuating border worlds. Refugee fleets fled in every direction. Galactic trade collapsed overnight. The balance of power that had existed for centuries was burning away, one empire at a time. In a small, dark cell deep inside Tarsian space, Elias Ward felt the tremors through the floor. His captors were distracted, shouting about invasions and destruction. He knew this was his chance. He quietly worked on the lock with a stolen shard of alien tech, his mind racing. The galaxy was collapsing, and he had to survive long enough to tell Earth what he had learned. On Mars, the artifact pulsed again, faster now, like a heartbeat responding to a distant call. Lena stared at the readings. "It's synchronizing," she whispered. "They're coming closer." Admiral Rain watched the star map as the returners' fleets moved through Tarsian space, unstoppable, burning everything in their path. She knew the truth now. The galaxy was about to change forever, and Earth's role in what was coming was only just beginning. The prison ship drifted through the black void near the Tarsian core worlds, heavily guarded and surrounded by a fleet of warships. Inside, Ambassador Elias Ward sat in a dim cell, bruised but unbroken. He had watched the chaos unfold from his narrow window, Tarsian fleets burning, worlds going dark, transmissions filled with panic. The returners were tearing through the Dominion, and now even his captors were afraid. Guards whispered nervously, their discipline cracking. In the distance, deep in the shadows of a dense nebula, Earth's stealth fleet waited in silence. The mission was simple: find Elias, rescue him, and get out before the Tarsians or the returners arrived. Admiral Rain had authorized the operation personally. She knew Elias wasn't just a diplomat anymore. He held the key to understanding the artifact and possibly stopping what was coming. Commander Juno Vega stood on the bridge of the infiltration cruiser Blacklight. Her eyes were fixed on the tactical display, showing the prison fleet's movements. "They're panicking," she muttered. "Half their patrol ships have scattered." Her second-in-command nodded. "Makes sense. Their empire's burning around them." Juno gave a thin smile. "Then we'll use that." The human fleet began to move. Cloaked ships slid through the darkness like predators, engines silent, profiles hidden. The Tarsian guards were too distracted by distant returner attacks to notice the small anomalies closing in on their prison convoy. Inside his cell, Elias suddenly heard faint vibrations through the wall, a rhythmic pattern he recognized. 3 short pulses, 3 long, 3 short SOS. His heart pounded. Earth was here. Outside, human strike teams launched in small dropships, gliding toward the prison ship under heavy jamming fields. Tarsian sensors never saw them coming. Within minutes, they latched onto the hull like shadows. Cutting torches hissed. Special forces units poured inside. The corridors of the prison ship erupted into chaos. Tarsian guards rushed to respond, but the humans were faster. Their armor advanced, their tactics precise. They moved like ghosts, disabling defenses and cutting through resistance. Elias's cell door exploded inward a few minutes later, and a familiar voice shouted, "Ambassador, we're getting you out!" He stared at the soldiers in shock, then laughed once, breathless. About time. As they moved through the corridors, alarms wailed. The prison fleet had finally noticed the attack, but before they could mount a proper defense, the returners arrived. The stars outside folded like paper, and colossal ships emerged from nothing, ships so massive they blotted out light. Their weapons flared once. Entire Tarsian escorts were vaporized. Panic consumed the fleet. Some Tarsian ships tried to fight. Others fled. None survived for long. Commander Vega saw the returners appear on her sensors and froze for a heartbeat. "They're early," she whispered. "Then we leave now," her officer replied. Human ships decloaked in formation, unleashing a coordinated strike. Railguns, missiles, and electronic warfare tore open escape lanes. Dropships rocketed back toward the Blacklight with Elias on board. The moment they were secured, the human fleet jumped into FTL. Seconds before a returner beam sliced through the space they had occupied. Elias sat in the medbay, breathing hard as the stars stretched into lines outside. A medic patched up his wounds, but his eyes were distant. He had seen things in Tarsian space, documents, intercepted transmissions, that terrified him more than the returners. "They think they can control it," he said quietly. "The Tarsians thought the artifact was a weapon. But it's not. It's a beacon, and we've already answered it. On Mars, the artifact pulsed brighter than ever. It was no longer just glowing. It was projecting energy fields into space, linking with the returners' fleet. Dr. Lena Aras and her team worked frantically, trying to decode the new signals. "It's like it's having a conversation," she said. "But we're not part of it. We just started it." Back aboard the UNS Vengeance, Admiral Rain stood with Elias in the strategy chamber. The star map showed the returner fleet spreading through Tarsian space, like fire through dry grass. But some of them were starting to turn towards Saul. "They've heard the key," Elias said grimly. "Now they're coming to claim it." Rain's jaw tightened. "Then we'll be ready." Throughout the Sol system, Earth's defenses came alive. Orbital platforms powered up. Fleet groups formed into battle lines. Colonies received evacuation orders. Humanity had spent decades preparing for wars against empires. But this was different. This was something older, stranger, and far more powerful. The rescue of Elias Ward was complete. But as the human fleet returned home, everyone understood the truth. The real storm was only just beginning. The returners were coming, and this time nothing would stop them. The Sol system had never been this quiet. No civilian chatter filled the comm channels. No cargo freighters drifted lazily between colonies. Every ship, every station, every orbital platform stood ready. The returners were coming, and Earth was preparing for the greatest battle in its history. In the command chamber aboard the UNS Vengeance, Admiral Sophia Wren stared at the tactical hologram. Red icons representing the returner fleets were approaching from multiple directions. They were vast, hundreds of ships, each one the size of cities, moving like a single organism. Even from light minutes away, their energy signatures burned through sensors like small stars. "They'll enter the outer defense perimeter in 18 minutes, a sensor officer reported. Rain gave a single nod. "Then we hold the line." Across the solar system, fleets assembled into layered formations. Mars, Luna, and the orbital rings bristled with railguns and missile platforms. Hidden defense satellites powered up, revealing trap zones that had been dormant for decades. Every piece of technology humanity had built for survival was now aimed at the incoming threat. On Mars, the artifact pulsed like a living heart. Dr. Lena Aras and her team watched helplessly as it synchronized with the approaching returner fleets. It wasn't just responding anymore, it was leading. Energy readings climbed higher than ever recorded. Elias Ward stood beside her, still recovering from his rescue. His face was pale as he watched the alien symbols scroll across the monitors. "They're not here to negotiate," he said softly. "They're here to claim what they think is theirs." Lena turned to him. "Then we have to make sure they don't." Moments later, the first returner ships dropped out of fold space, beyond Neptune's orbit. Space itself seemed to twist around them. They didn't send a message. They didn't open channels. They came in silence. And then they fired. Massive beams of white energy slammed into the outer defense lines. Dozens of human satellites and picket ships were vaporized instantly. But humanity had expected this. The trap was already set. Hidden behind Neptune's shadow, Earth's Wrath fleet decloaked. It was the most powerful human armada ever assembled. Dreadnoughts, carriers, stealth cruisers, and AI-controlled gun platforms. With perfect coordination, they launched their counterattack. Thousands of missiles streaked through the void, weaving through returner defenses. Railguns fired in endless salvos. Massive energy cannons roared, their beams slashing across space. The darkness between the stars lit up like a burning storm. Returner ships responded with terrifying precision. Their shields bent physics. Their counterfire cut through human formations like blades through water. Entire flotillas were erased in seconds. But the humans didn't break. They adapted, adjusted formations, and kept pushing. Admiral Rain stood firm on the Vengeance's bridge. "Execute Phase 2, she commanded. Deep space mines detonated around the returner fleet, releasing gravitational distortions that disrupted their formation. At the same time, stealth bombers emerged from fold space directly inside returner lines, unleashing experimental singularity charges. Explosions rippled through their ships. Several of the massive vessels faltered, their glowing shields flickering. For the first time, the returners slowed down. On Mars, the artifact suddenly emitted a new pulse, stronger, sharper. Monitors across the base went dark, then displayed a single message in alien script. Lena translated it quickly. Her breath caught. It says, "Judgment begins now." Elias stared at the artifact, then at the returners on the star map. "They're not just attacking," he said. "This is a test." Back in space, the battle reached a terrifying climax. Human fleets were battered, but they refused to retreat. Returner ships began to break through the second line of defense, moving toward Earth's inner worlds. And then, Earth played its final card. A shadow emerged from Sol's inner orbit, the Leviathan, humanity's most secret and powerful warship. Built in silence, hidden for years, it was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen from humans. Its hull shimmered with adaptive armor, and its weapon cores glowed like captured suns. The returners turned their weapons toward it. But before they could fire, the Leviathan unleashed its main gun, a focused energy beam powered by an artificial singularity. It tore through the leading returner ship, slicing it apart like it was made of glass. The shockwave rippled through the fleet. For the first time, the returners staggered. Rain's voice echoed through every fleet channel. "This is our home. We do not yield. Fire everything!" The humans struck with everything they had. Dreadnoughts closed in. Carriers launched wave after wave of fighters. Planetary defense grids hammered the enemy. The Leviathan cut through returner ships like a blade through fog, buying precious time. On Mars, the artifact's pulses reached their peak. Suddenly, the returner fleet stopped firing. Their ships hung motionless. Then, one by one, they slowly began to withdraw. No explanation, no final message. They simply turned and vanished back into the folds of space. The battle was over. The solar system was scarred, fleets battered, stations burning, but Earth still stood. Against an ancient force that had burned empires to ash, humanity had not broken. Elias stood outside the Mars base hours later, watching the stars. "They'll be back," he said quietly. Lena nodded. "Yes, but now they know we're not afraid." In orbit, the Leviathan drifted like a silent guardian. Across the galaxy, empires whispered in awe and fear. The humans had survived the returners. More than that, they had fought them to a standstill. Earth's wrath had burned across the stars, and nothing in the galaxy would ever see humanity the same way again.